Justice may take its sweet time, but it arrives nonetheless. A New York father and Army veteran, Stefan Smirk, has been sentenced to 70 years in prison, nearly 30 years after he left his barracks and killed a woman in Northern Virginia. Stefan Smirk from Niskayuna was sentenced to life in prison with all but 70 years suspended. The Fairfax Commonwealth's Attorney's Office shared the news in a release. Smirk, now 53, had pleaded guilty in October to the 1994 murder of 37-year-old Robin Whore Lawrence. Her family had been waiting for decades to find out what happened to her. Robin Whore Lawrence was a mother of a 2-year-old and originally from New York, but at the time of her death, she was living in Fairfax County, Virginia. What finally cracked the case was how detectives finally closed in on Smirk by using advanced genealogy techniques. Smirk, who had been working as a software engineer, confessed to the crime just hours after detectives came to his home in New York to collect a DNA sample in September 2023. Back in November 1994, Smirk was a young U.S. Army soldier stationed at what is now Joint Base Myer-Henderson Hall in Arlington. According to the Fairfax Commonwealth Attorney's Office, he left his barracks with intent to kill someone, though he did not yet know who. He drove to West Springfield and broke into Lawrence's home, stabbing her a blood-curdling 49 times. Lawrence was home alone with her 2-year-old daughter that night, as her husband was out of the country. Thankfully, the little girl was not injured during the attack. Lawrence's husband, unable to reach her for several days, asked a neighbor to check in on her. On November 20th, 1994, the neighbor found the back door open, but got no response from Lawrence when they called out for her. When the neighbor called for Lawrence's daughter, the child came to the door. Later that day, around 12:30 p.m., Lawrence's body was found. Authorities believed she had been dead for at least a few days. Her daughter, who had undergone a liver transplant just a year earlier, was treated for dehydration when she was discovered. Investigators had collected blood samples at the scene, but the murder remained unsolved for nearly 30 years. It wasn't until Fairfax County detectives used forensic genealogy that they were able to narrow down a suspect. In September 2023, they made their way to Niskayuna, New York, where Stefan Smirk lived, to request a voluntary DNA sample. Just a few hours after giving his sample, Smirk turned himself in and confessed to the murder of Robin Whore Lawrence. "I knew that I was going to kill somebody," he said in video footage of the confession. "I did not know who I was going to kill. Something inside of me just compelled me to do it. It was like this overbearing thought in my brain that I needed to kill somebody." On the night of the murder, Smirk told police he had been drinking. He drove to a neighborhood where his friend lived and randomly chose Lawrence's house. He entered through a sliding glass door and attacked her with a knife. When Lawrence tried to call for help, Smirk cut the phone cord. According to Deputy Chief Eli Corey of the Fairfax County Police, her 2-year-old daughter was in another room during the attack, but luckily wasn't a target of her attack. In his confession, Smirk revealed that Lawrence begged for her life and fought back. "She clawed at my face," he said. "I had a little bit of a scar." When asked what he used to attack her, Smirk admitted he used a knife and cut her up pretty good. Chillingly, he added that if he didn't have a wife and kids, he probably would have killed more people, saying, "I am a serial killer who only killed once." Lauren Ovens was just 8 years old when her aunt, Robin Whore Lawrence, was murdered. Speaking to USA Today, she shared that her family was shocked when they learned that Stefan Smirk, the man responsible for her aunt's death, was from the same part of New York as the Whore family, Niskayuna. "Some of my best friends lived across the street from him," Ovens said. "I had been by his house when I was a kid. He was living under our nose the whole time." Years later, Ovens moved to the DMV area and realized she was now living near the home where her aunt had been killed. "It's hard for me to even drive by the house," she admitted. She still remembers seeing the house as a child, just months after the murder. The memory of the bloodstains on the carpet and the darkness that filled the house, now missing the warmth and light her aunt once brought, has stuck with her. At one point, Lawrence's parents stayed in the house while trying to find out what happened to their daughter. They even offered a reward for information. They had a really hard time, Ovens recalled. Imagine staying in a house where your daughter was murdered for weeks. Ovens remembers her aunt, Robin Ward Lawrence, as a talented artist and dancer. She even designed a plaque honoring Martin Luther King Jr. and loved working with watercolors and pencil sketches. She was beyond talented, Ovens said. I think that's the one thing my almost 101-year-old grandpa remembers is just how much of a talented artist she was. Growing up in New York, Ovens would spend holidays like Easter, Christmas, and Thanksgiving with her aunt. She also spent time playing and looking after her cousin, Lawrence's daughter, Nicole. She would laugh because I would try to take care of Nicole, and I was practically a child myself, Ovens recalled. Her aunt was always full of life, constantly smiling, very active, and super outgoing. Ovens, being an only child, was drawn to her lively personality. It was really nice to be able to share that bond with someone, Ovens said. She almost felt like a sister to me, even if I was so much younger. I fell in love with her artwork. I fell in love with her. She was what I wanted to be when I grew up. To Ovens, her aunt was someone who stayed true to herself and had a unique ability to sense how others were feeling. She was always there to support people during tough times. I didn't have that with a lot of my other family members, and so that's why I think this case is so important for me to tell her story, Ovens said. After Robin Lawrence's death, her husband raised their daughter Nicole, Ovens said. Nicole still lives in Virginia. This has impacted her greatly, Ovens shared. She's definitely staying strong. I think it's hard for her to talk about it because she was so young when it happened. She doesn't have much of a remembrance of her mom. Commonwealth's attorney Steve Descano said that Lawrence's murder scarred Fairfax County for more than 30 years. The pain left by Robin Lawrence's murder can never fully heal, he added, but I hope that today's sentence will help her loved ones finally close this difficult chapter. It's difficult to imagine just how hard this must have been for Robin's family, and more importantly, her daughter. Whilst a child can recover from witnessing something so traumatic at that age, growing up without a mother is something no kid should have to go through. What do you think, though? Is this justice enough? Let me know in the comments below.